President Biden arrived this morning in Israel, making him the first president to visit Israel during a time of war, which is pretty dangerous, but he should be okay once he makes it down the stairs.
Joe Biden has got to go. He's really not up to being president of the United States. Even his friends are making fun of the fact that he can barely make it down they changed the staircase. They don't even bring in one of those airplane staircases. He goes out of the belly where the luggage people normally go in and out. And you can see it's very, you see the agent following him down the steps last night. He was out of position. If Joe should fall, really he should be down beneath him on the staircase in case he starts falling. You can catch him. Joe Biden, President of the United States, leader of the free world. Oh, what a world it is. Very embarrassing for all of us. But apparently not for him. Joe Biden. Ian Miles Chong on X asking what's going on with Joe Biden's chin. What's going on with Joe Biden's chin? It's true there's something funny going on with his chin. He needs to leave the White House and the presidency. We need a president. It's kind of sad. We don't have one. Who's going to, Kamala is the backup quarterback, and she is not up to the task either. So what do you do then? Then they got Mr. Smiles and Grins in California, who's wrecked California. He could do the same thing for the rest of the country. That's your Democrat Party. And then over here, well, we'll get to that later. I am telling you. And the Democrat Party, is it fair to say that the Democrat Party is the party of jihad? They have the Jihad Caucus, right? The Jihad Squad. And the Jihad Squad was there on a tear. We had Rashida Tlaib out there crying yesterday. She was crying because, Israel is defending itself rather than just sitting still to be massacred. And Rashida Tlaib, perfectly mainstream Democrat member of Congress, and she really wants to see the genocide. She's a genocidal Palestinian. She comes from the genocidal Palestinian branch of the Palestinian thing. And of course, most of them do come from most Palestinians, so-called, come from the genocidal wing of the Palestinian party. Is it a party? No, they got a party. What kind of party is it? It's not a good party, not a nice party. It's not the kind you want to go to. It's not the kind of party you bring gifts to. Not if you do bring gifts, they should explode because crazy. Listen, we've got updates on Israel and Joe Biden. He's back from Israel. He must be real sleepy now. He's scheduled to give a speech tonight at 8 p.m. Eastern on all the great work he's done. In fact, there are some almost amusing headlines about this, but Joe Biden had a successful trip to the Middle East because Hamas is going to get $100 million. And if that makes sense to you, you're definitely a Democrat, and you're not on the side of civilization. Something is wrong with your brain. You need to reset, need to unplug and reboot because there's something terribly wrong with you. Yesterday, of course, Hezbollah that's the party of Allah in Lebanon, funded by Iran. Iran, of course, funded by Obama and Biden because they love terrorism. Democrat Party has a long history of terrorism, from gifting the world the white knights of the Ku Klux Klan. Joe Biden used to work with the exalted cyclops of the Democrat Party, Robert Byrd, from West Virginia, who I interviewed more than once way back when. And, they're the party of the Klan. They're the party of the Students for a Democratic Society, SDS. They're the party of the Weathermen, later the Weather Underground, because Weathermen was deemed to be sexist. They're the party of the Symbionese Liberation Army and kidnapping Patty Hearst. They're the party of killing cops and robbing Brinks cars to fund the revolution. They're the party of riots and arson and burning police cars and police stations. Really, they've upgraded their attacks on police, and now they've seized power, so they defund police. They think that's more fun than just burning their cars and things like that. You're a Democrat Party. And who do you think's committing all the crimes across the country and all our big cities and the record numbers of carjackings? And we're climbing to record numbers of murders across the country as well, including in Washington, D.C. I talked about it yesterday. Because day before yesterday, we had 4 murders in Washington, D.C. We're only a city, 61 square miles of dirt. And and fewer than 700,000 people. If you have 4 murders a day, do some quick math on that, Michael. How many is that a year? That's a whole bunch. That's how much. And Democrats, police are looking for Democrats. Last time I looked yesterday, there were no suspects in the 4 murders of day before yesterday, 3 shootings, 1 bludgeoning in an alley, no less. And they're looking for Democrats in each of the 4 cases because they kill a lot of people, murder. They love crime and looting. Don't they love looting? They love looting. Some stores just have nothing anymore because the Democrats have been there. It's almost Monty Python, but, with real criminal insanity built in. So the Democrat Party, if you're a Democrat, what's wrong with you? There's something terribly wrong with you. I'm telling you. And the New York Times, they finally straightened out their Israel bombs hospital, and we all kinds of Democrats are still out there, and like Rashida Tlaib. The damn Jews, they dropped a bomb on that hospital. No, they didn't. One of you jihadis did. But never mind the facts. Facts are not really their thing. They prefer the propaganda of Hamas, which the New York Times and the Associated Press and CNN and Politico and others spread immediately, of course, about Israel bombing the hospital. It's a Baptist hospital, by the way. Is there a Muslim hospital there? Do they have different kind of medical treatment? I think they might. All right, so a lot to talk about. Biden to address nation after Israel trip. Listen to this ABC News headline. It made me laugh out loud this morning. Sitting on the couch with my best girl. And Biden to address nation after Israel trip, says, quote, I got it done, end quote, on aid to Gaza. But wait a minute, aren't the terrorists the bad guys in here? The Democrats are always with the bad guys. You got defund the police because they're with the bad guys, right? Hey, communist China gave millions of dollars to the Biden family. Pay no attention to that. China's getting everything they want during the Biden years. And Iran getting everything they want, plus $6 billion for hostages. 5 hostages, $1.2 billion per hostage, getting everything they want. Oh, and the United Nations, because the Biden administration didn't object. The United Nations, the news media largely ignored it. They lifted sanctions on Iran day before yesterday. Joe Biden announced that he was giving them $6 billion for hostages on September 11th, which is a date that will live in infamy, but not with Joe Biden because he can't remember what happened on September 11th because his brain, she's a no good, that brain of his, she no work. That's amazing. So ABC News is excited that Joe Biden got it done. It's like, what's his name? Get her done. He got it done on aid to Gaza. Still firing missiles at civilians in Israel. And Joe Biden, hey, here's $100 million. But the bad guys better not steal it. What a maroon, honestly. Just amazing. So Joe Biden to address the nation tonight at 8 o'clock. And he's going to talk about Israel and Ukraine because, we're practically in World War III at this point in Joe Biden's presidency. And major land war in Europe and a major war in the Middle East. And it may expand and grow and get worse. And the left, they want Israel to stop killing the enemies of civilization because the left, they're enemies of civilization too. The left and the jihadis have a lot in common when it comes to the death cult components and the hatred of civilization and the world and how they want to turn everything upside down and pull the sock inside out because, they're the left. Keep in mind, they're not liberals. They're the left, and there's nothing more illiberal than the leftist. And the jihadis, they do a lot of the things that the left kind of envies. The left thinks, well, when they get the chance, they're going to do the same thing. Nobody's killed more people than the left in the history of humankind. And they've only had, 106 years to do it. The jihadis don't hold a candle next to a fuse going to a giant bomb. To the left, amazing stuff. So Joe Biden, I can hardly wait. And Democrats, hundreds of Democrats were arrested on Capitol Hill yesterday in the Cannon House office building. That is one of 3 office buildings that house the members of Congress from both parties. And a mob of pro-jihad anti-civilization lefties went in there claiming they were all Jewish, didn't they? They said, not in my name. What, don't defend civilization in your name? Okay, all right, it's not in your name. We're not going to defend civilization in your name. We'll just do it in the name of civilized people. And you cretins, you pro-Islamic terrorist jihadi simps, you useful idiots for the death cult that is radical Islam, you can do whatever you want in your name. And honestly, the Fox News DC, the local Channel 5, hundreds arrested after pro-Palestinian demonstrators flood Cannon Rotunda, Capitol Complex. It was actually an insurrection. Michael, did they shoot and kill any of the young women at this? Were there any 12-year veterans of the Air Force there to shoot and kill any young women who were unarmed and accused of trespassing? Because there was a lot of trespassing yesterday. It was an insurrection. It was an uprising against established authority and established government, and that's an insurrection. And hundreds of them were arrested, but none of them will get 22 years in prison. Don't worry, your pointy little Democrat Party heads. Nobody, I'm sure they're all loose already, and they hate the Jews, and they're proud that they got arrested, and they love genocide. It was like the Wannsee Conference. It was like a little miniature Wannsee Conference. The Democrats don't want a two-state solution. They want a final solution. Rashida Tlaib doesn't want a two-state solution. She wants the final solution. She's a Democrat member of Congress in good standing with the Democrats and the media, but I repeat myself. Hundreds were arrested. We've got audio for you. They're chanting lunatic fringe stuff, but, mainstream Democrat Party rhetoric. It's anti-Israel, but they say that they're not anti-Semites. They're just anti-Israel. See, that's like, I think the nation of Japan should not be allowed to exist. It should be wiped from the face of the map, right? It should be eliminated. That doesn't make me anti-Japanese. But wait, Chris, there is only one Japanese country where Japanese people live, and it's called Japan. Well, don't confuse my believing that Japan shouldn't exist with my being anti-Japanese. I'm not anti-Japanese. I'm just anti-Japan, see? And they make this anti-intellectual argument in the squirrely brains that they are apparently stuck with. It's pretty amazing stuff. But the Democrat Party college campuses across America, college professors and administrators they soft sell it, but they're genocidal anti-Semites. Jew haters is what they are. And a lot of these people in the Capitol, they claim to be Jewish. I don't buy that all of them were Jewish or that even half of them were Jewish. I know all of them were leftists. That I know. And, they love death. They love death more than we love life. Just like ISIS and Al-Qaeda and Hamas and all of the radical Islamic jihadis around the world who are now, they've got a friend in the Democrat Party. Very powerful and potent friend. Joe Biden among them. And aid, he dropped off $100 million in aid, but not for the Jews, for God's sake. No, for the Islamists. And then he wagged his finger and said, his crooked little finger, and he said, yeah, but if you guys steal it, then he didn't say what would happen. Maybe the aid would stop. They're talking about aid going in through Egypt, through the Rafah gate, the Rafah crossing, which is not open. Even though liberals on television say that it has been open, they lie a lot. You know how they are. They lie all the time. And aid will begin flowing in tomorrow from Egypt. And Egypt will not take a single refugee. They will not take a single Palestinian because they say, haktui. They spit in their general direction. And NBC News, they're very concerned. Israel says it wants to destroy Hamas, but who would govern Gaza after that? I don't know, maybe Satan will slither out of a crack in the earth. And we got Brian Stelter, seltzer water, Uncle Fester from CNN. He used to be at CNN, and then he got fired because he's a donkey. And he said something yesterday that was true about the press. Now that he left CNN, I guess he's at liberty to say something. AOC, Ilhan Omar, Cori Bush, Rashida Tlaib, the Jihad Squad. The Jihad Squad. They love genocide. We've got that for you. Senator John Kennedy, he weighed in. He had something funny to say. U.S. troops under attack in the Middle East because, Islam and all that stuff. And Capitol Hill choosing the next speaker, death threats, mayhem, and probably no successful vote today for Jim Jordan. Lots and lots of Democrat news, mostly Democrat. We got a couple of funny ones for you, too. 888-630-9625 is our telephone number. Hey, it's Chris Plant. Excited to tell you about our July 2024 Listener Sea Cruise. We'll be sailing around the British Isles, visiting Scotland and Ireland. Please join us. Book by this July 31st for extra savings. Visit ChrisPlantCruise.com. Now we got the Democrat Party threatening, members of the Democrat Party threatening the United States of America and the President of the United States of America because they're not liberals, they're the left. Keep that in mind at all times because that's an important piece of information. Let's go to a telephone call and talk to the nice people. Let's go to Jason calling from Kensington. Jason, you're on the Chris Plant Show.
Hey, g'day, Chris. How you going, mate?
Hey, Jason, I'm great. What do you say?
These recent comments by Rashida Tlaib, the obvious lie about the bombing, you would think that people like Chuck Schumer and our local bloke here, Jamie Raskin, would be on the high hills trying to, talk down these people about the misinformation, because usually they're front and center of any sort of anti-Semitic comment. I mean, I would think, killing your own people would be about as anti-Semitic as you can get. And yet there's been pretty much crickets from these guys, which shows me that they're probably on some other sort of agenda.
Yeah, what do you think that is?
Yeah, the destruction of this country, I guess, is part of it. I mean, these people are sick. They're sick puppies. I mean, they definitely need help. And the thing is that this is their opportunity to and protect their own people, but they've done nothing but back into a corner and let the media sort of do the work for them.
Well, they don't seem to like good order and discipline, and civilization itself doesn't seem to be something that they cherish or feel the need to protect. The United States of America is the big dog on the planet Earth, and we're supposed to stand up when we see genocidal fanatics attacking and slaughtering people. But the Democrats, they don't break lockstep with one another, Jason. That's one of the things about them. They never deviate from the sheet music, and the sheet music says Israel victimizers, Palestinians victims, right?
Exactly. Yep, exactly. So, yep.
That's as deep as their thinking gets, Jason. I mean, that's it. It's very superficial. It's anti-intellectual. It's anti-Western, and it's anti-civilizational. They're the left. And Congressman Patrick McHenry, kind of like Patrick Henry, but a drinker, I guess, because you got a Mick in front of it, right? Not to stereotype the Irish people, just because billy clubs and paddy wagons are named after them. Who is Representative Patrick McHenry, and could he become the House Speaker? I wish that a small number of Republicans would get it together and just elect Jim Jordan and let's move on, shall we? Be so terrible. It looks like he could be removed also. But in the meantime and in between time, let's just get things going here. Silly Republicans on Capitol Hill. You're starting to look pretty stupid, I've got to say. And I know you don't often need a lot of help with that. But stop doing things that make you look stupid. Think that'd be a good idea. What do you think? All right, let's go to let's go to the lunatics on Capitol Hill yesterday. The Democrat Party has an anti-Semitism problem. The Democrat Party has an anti-Semitism problem. I think it's a big problem, their anti-Semitism problem. And one of the things that happened just yesterday, every day it's a new thing. New York University, yesterday I was playing audio, the radical, they're all left-wingers. They're white suburban kids who go to fancy colleges that have been brainwashed and indoctrinated by the left, which interestingly has become a gang of Jew-hating, genocidal lunatics. And yesterday, I played George Washington University, New York University, the professor from Cornell University, who's a vile racist, and that's okay with Cornell University, I assume. And yesterday on Capitol Hill, we had a gang of leftists storm, and apparently the lunatic Rashida Tlaib was speaking to them. Let's go to Rashida Tlaib, and then we'll go to the protest at the Cannon House office building, because Rashida Tlaib is a Democrat member of Congress and a genocidal racist, which is fine because she's a Democrat and she's a WOC. She's a woman of color. They love to abbreviate everything, and that's their... You got POC, that's person of color. WOC is a woman of color. Is she an LGBTQ WOC? Because that would give her even greater standing, higher standing in the Democrat Party.
Would she have to marry her sister then?
Oh, I said that's a Rashida Tlaib reference, see, because Ilhan Omar reference, because Ilhan Omar married her brother in order to violate our immigration laws. And we don't know whether they're ever consummated, but nobody really wants to know. So that one will probably be left alone. Let's go to Rashida Tlaib on Capitol Hill yesterday. She's a Democrat. She's an elected member of Congress. She is a member of the House of Representatives. And she is a vile and virulent anti-Semite, because that's very trendy in the Democrat Party now. Soundbite number 5, right? Numero cinco, as they say at the Biden White House. And just a terrible, awful political party. And if you're a Democrat, please call in and explain why you're a Democrat. I'd like to know. I'd like to have Democrats explain themselves and why you're such an anti-Semite, because, you know, now your party, in addition to everything else, of terrorism and the Klan and Jim Crow and the Confederacy, now you're the party of genocidal anti-Semitism. There were no Republicans, not a single Republican, in the Cannon House office building rotunda chanting their anti-Semitic stuff yesterday, not a single one. Liberals are saying, oh, yeah, in Charlottesville, people chanted, Jews will not replace us. Yeah, it never made any sense. It was a dumb chant, and it was years ago. And you guys have murdered like 40,000 people in the United States since then. So never mind that. You guys, and then the news media sees these guys doing the Jews will not replace us chant on Capitol Hill, which is an insurrection. Yesterday was October 18th, and we must never allow October 18th to happen again. The insurrection, the anti-Semite mob insurrection on Capitol Hill yesterday was appalling, and we must never allow this to happen again. We got to have a hearing, I think. There should be a hearing. Green felt tablecloths, pitchers of water, lawyers, the whole thing. But the Republicans won't do that because they don't know how to play this game. Here's Rashida Tlaib. She is a radical, a Democrat, and an extremist. And the Republicans on Capitol Hill don't know how to play the verbal game either, the labeling game either. But they really should, because this is kind of just politically speaking, an extraordinary prime opportunity to label correctly the Democrat Party for, their activities. I don't want to label them falsely, slander them or smear them, just tell the truth about them, and that'd be good enough. They are the actual extremists. It's the old projection thing when Joe Biden and the others call the MAGA extremists. Yeah? Give me an example of MAGA extremists. January 6th. Okay. October 18th. January 6th, how many police cars were burned? How many police stations had their doors sealed and the buildings set on fire? How many courthouses were attacked? How many thousands of police officers were assaulted and injured, thousands by the Democrats in their George Floyd riots. But never mind that. Let's go to Rashida Tlaib, because she's also a commie. She's, in addition to everything else, squad member. She's the Jihad Squad. Jihad Squad Representative Tlaib ignores U.S. intelligence about Gaza hospital, sides with Hamas over the Biden administration. Hamas has continued pushing the same talking points as Rashida Tlaib, that Israel is at fault for the hospital bombing. I want to know what a Baptist hospital is doing on the Gaza Strip. Oh yeah, somebody's got to show up to work. All right, so let's go to Rashida Tlaib. Soundbite number 5, and here she is yesterday, not day before yesterday or the day before that. She yesterday still spewing the thoroughly debunked, disproven lie, and she is disseminating and spreading radical Islamic terrorist jihadi propaganda. So she is a jihadi propagandist, and if you're a jihadi propagandist, aren't you a jihadi? You know, there was a member of the Socialist Workers' Party in Germany named, what was his name? Goebbels. It was Goebbels. Yeah, Joseph Goebbels. And Goebbels was the head propagandist for the Socialist Workers' Party of Adolf Hitler. And he was definitely considered a Nazi. You know, he didn't go out and bayonet people on the battlefield. He was just the propagandist, only the propagandists.
Did I hear you correctly say that perhaps he was influenced by Goebbels?
Might have been influenced by Goebbels, I can't say. But that's a $1 million journalist at NBC News. The Reverend Al Charlatan. All right, here's Rashida Tlaib. Everybody knows it's been debunked. Joe Biden said it out loud on camera. U.S. intelligence, Israeli intelligence. You know what? Video from Al Jazeera. Video from Al Jazeera, which is not exactly MSNBC, not exactly Fox News or Newsmax. It's Al Jazeera. It's pro-jihad television news. And their video shows the missile coming up from Gaza. I'm doing this with my hands now. It shows the missile going up in Gaza and then coming down right at the hospital. And there are other videos that show the missile coming up and then going down from a distant, news camera videos. Left Wing and Al Jazeera news camera videos show the missile coming up from the Gaza and then going down in the Gaza. It's the Muj, you know. I miss the word mujahideen. I kind of like that one. But the jihadis did it. Now here's Rashida Tlaib. She is the gurgle of the Jihad Squad.
Continue to watch people think it's okay to bomb a hospital where children.
She can hardly breathe. Shame.
You know what's so hard sometimes is watching those videos.
Yeah.
And the people telling the kids don't cry.
And not understanding them.
Let them cry.
Let them cry.
And they're shaking. And somebody,
They're shaking.
they keep telling them not to cry.
She's crying. Tell them not to cry.
They can cry. I can cry. We all can cry. If we're not crying, something is wrong.
Something is wrong if you're not crying. You're mentally ill. That's one of the things that we can observe about this. I don't know. It's like, you know, the U.S. Navy attacked Pearl Harbor in 1941, and she needs to cry. She's obviously mentally unstable. She's a Palestinian American. She's a radical and an extremist, and she is with the Jihad Squad, and she is a genocidal anti-Semite, and she's emotionally unstable, which is normal for Democrats these days. I assume she's got at least some degree of gender dysphoria, which is pretty normal too. That is the gurgle of the Jihad Squad and a mainstream Democrat. If you're Jewish and a Democrat, what is the matter with you? Self-loathing, suicidal, pathetic, sad, anti-civilizational. And what do you think happens when the Jews are driven from the river to the sea, from the River Jordan to the Mediterranean Sea, and they're all dead or they've escaped? What do you think happens then? What do you think happens to that patch of dirt called Israel? Because they'll drive it into the ground. Now it's beautiful. It's the most beautiful inhabitable country in that region of the world. And what do you think happens then? Just look at the Gaza Strip, because that's what happens to the whole country. And you won't be able to visit Jerusalem anymore because they'll cut your head off and put it on a pole. There'll be thousands of them heading into the city of Jerusalem because to them, the Middle Ages never ended. The Crusades never ended. And to Putin, the Cold War never ended, which means to Bernie Sanders and the Democratic Socialists, the Cold War never ended. Putin meeting with Xi Jinping in Beijing yesterday. Sorry for all the Xings. And the commies are on the march. The jihadis are on the march. And Joe Biden is trying to navigate his way up 5 steps and not doing a very good job. Now, the jihad squad includes not only the mentally unstable gurgle of jihad, Rashida Tlaib, but it also includes other lunatics, including Ilhan Omar and AOC. And but let's get it. The Hamas squad, the jihad squad, Rashida Tlaib on Joe Biden. She's still preaching to the lunatics that are about to stage an insurrection and go in and take over a congressional office building when hundreds of them were arrested. I assume the FBI is going to be hunting the rest of them down at their homes and pre-dawn raids and dragging them away. October 18th must never be allowed to happen again. Our democracy was in the brink. That, you see, Nancy Pelosi came out yesterday and said crazy stuff too. And by the way, January 6th is all her fault. It's not all her fault, but she's largely responsible. She was briefed on the intelligence at a time. She was offered the National Guard by Donald Trump. She was offered more police, and she declined all of those things. But there were a bunch of FBI people in the crowd, so that helped. Here is Rashida Tlaib in front of the Capitol, inspiring the mentally ill mob that are chanting shame.
And so I'm telling you right now, President Biden, not all America's with you on this one. And you need to wake up and understand that.
I think she's angry.
We are literally watching people commit genocide and killing a vast majority just like this. And we still stand by and say nothing. We will remember this.
We will remember this. Sounds like a threat. She should be in handcuffs. She just threatened the President of the United States. I think, if you stretch the thing, which happens a lot these days with the FBI, but only selectively. We're watching genocide. Well, we just watched the beginning of an attempted genocide in Iran is pushing for more. They've got their Hezbollah army in the north, the party of God, the army of God, Hezbollah. That's Allah. And they may join. Well, they're already firing missiles and rockets and infiltrating through the north, and they're murdering people already. If there is a genocide that we're watching, it's against the Jews. Rashida Tlaib.
All of you need to know. I swear to God, Wahyat Allah.
You're
on the right side of history.
Yeah, you're on the right side.
You're doing
Woo, we're Nazis.
everything possible to save lives. What is wrong with that?
What is wrong with that? Yeah, then send a check to Planned Parenthood because, we got 40% too many black babies in the world. They care very deeply about the children as long as you're harvesting their organs. Rashida Tlaib.
I'm going to be real with you all.
Real. She wants to be real.
My colleagues, many of them.
Cowbell.
I usually don't talk smack about them.
Right.
No, I'm usually considerate because
Right.
I don't like them policing me.
Right.
So I don't police them.
Police.
But as an American, not just as a member of the United States Congress, I am ashamed. I am ashamed that
You
they're
should
saying,
be.
not yet. Maybe next week.
Cowbell. More cowbell.
Not yet, Rashida. Maybe in a couple of days. How many more have to die?
Good question. That's a good question. Then she detonated her suicide vest. It was very sad. The chunks of meat all over the place, hairballs. It was awful. They had to bring in a fire truck to hose it down. One of those fire cannon things on the roof of the truck. That part was kind of fun. All right, she didn't really detonate her suicide vest and blow herself into pieces. just internally, just psychically, psychologically. That's Rashida Tlaib. She is in the mainstream of the Democrat Party, and we're seeing it on college campuses all across America. This is the left. These are not liberals. And a lot of them are genocidal racists. That is to say, anti-Semites. And Rashida Tlaib is only one of the members of the Jihad Squad.
You never went bowling with Goebbels either, I suppose, eh?
I can cry, we all can cry.
I've looked at clear cuts and burnt forest, and I've felt outraged, but I didn't scream and I didn't cry. And I need to. Ah!
There's a lot of mental illness out there, and its name is the Democrat Party. It should be declared a mental illness of some kind, I think. Honestly, it turns out that we stole the land from the deer. These people we can't allow the crazy people to be in charge of everything, but that's kind of where we are now. Isn't that true? I've got so much, honestly, I'm just going to say it, fun stuff today. Have you seen this Canadian Conservative leader that was being harassed by a reporter? And the Canadian Conservative leader standing there eating an apple while the reporter was trying to nail him. And the Canadian Conservative leader, who has a Frenchy name, his name is Pierre. I want to get to him because he's pretty funny. And it's a tutorial for the way that Republicans in Washington ought to respond to the news media here. So I want to share that with you. But right now, that's pretty cool. Let's go. Well, Richard's got a quick question. Let's go to Richard calling from Manassas, Virginia. Richard, you're on the Chris Plant Show.
Hey, thanks for the call, taking my call, Chris. I'll be quick. With all the lying and propaganda out there, do we have any evidence anyone died in the parking lot of that hospital at 8 o'clock at night? It's very possible no one died, and they're just making up or maybe a handful. But really, 500 people, were they having an Afghan wedding in the parking lot of the hospital? I mean, because it just seems almost impossible for them to have 500 people at one point for that to happen.
You're right, of course. You're an astute observer. You should be the editor of the New York Times. You should be in charge of CNN. CNN says hundreds likely dead in Gaza hospital blast as Israel blockades medical supplies.